I thought many times before speaking. I thought about staying silent. I thought no one would believe me. But then, I remembered what he told me. If you keep this to yourself, many souls will keep walking in the dark. But if you have the courage to speak, you'll be a candle lit in the midst of the darkness. So today I'm here to share something I don't even know how to explain. In human words, I had visions, and in one of them, Jesus appeared to me. It wasn't a dream. It wasn't my imagination. It was as if time stopped, as if my soul left the physical world for a few moments and was taken to something greater, something sacred. And there, Jesus spoke to me. He showed me what's happening in thousands of hearts right now, and he asked me for just one thing. Speak for me, he said. Speak to those who are crying when no one's watching, to those who think they've failed, to those who are losing their faith. Tell them there is still hope, that I am still here. And he also told me, at the end of this message, you will tell them what I showed you last, something that will set their soul free. But only those who listen until the very end will understand. So, if you feel like you're hearing this by chance, know this: nothing here is by chance. He wants to reach you right now, and what you're about to hear could change everything. In the first vision, I was taken to a place that looked like a valley, but it wasn't an ordinary valley. It was a spiritual space where human pain took on form. There I saw hearts floating in the air, broken hearts wrapped in shadows, each one emitting a sound. But it wasn't a sound of voices. It was the sound of suffering that no one hears. Jesus walked among those hearts like a doctor among the wounded. He touched each one, and with every touch, a light would emerge from the wound, as if the pain were being rewritten into love. I asked, "Why are so many like this, my Lord?" And he answered, "Because they've forgotten that I still hear them. They think I've turned away, but they're the ones who've been hiding. They feel unworthy. But if they only knew how much I love them, even with their flaws, they would run back into my arms." Then he took me to a place that looked like a desert. But instead of sand, the ground was made of absences. It was emptiness, the emptiness that so many carry inside themselves, even when surrounded by people. I saw a man walking through that desert, holding a Bible as if it were a map. But he didn't open it. He just walked and cried. Jesus looked at him and said, "He thinks he's lost me. But it's actually I who am leading him through this desert, because it's in the silence that he will hear me more clearly." I also saw a young woman kneeling, full of pain, blaming herself for everything. Jesus knelt beside her. He didn't say a word. He just stayed. And over time, her pain began to dissolve. He looked at me and said, "Sometimes people just need to know that I haven't left them, even when they can't feel me. I am there, even when they can't hear me. I am listening, even when they give up on me. I never give up on them." The third vision was the hardest to watch. I saw people dragging themselves, but it wasn't their bodies that were wounded. It was their souls. Each one carried invisible chains attached to their chest, and on those chains were words: failure, guilt, sin, coward, worthless. Jesus approached a man who was crying, leaning against a gray, dark, cold wall. He couldn't lift his head, and Jesus said, "This is one of my favorites, because he still cares. Because his pain is the sign that his spirit still feels. But he has forgotten that I have already forgiven him." Then Jesus reached out his hand, and when he touched the man's heart, the chains fell. They disappeared, as if they had never existed. Then he looked at me and said, Tell them that I don't keep memories of my children's mistakes when they bring me sincere repentance. Tell them that shame is a weapon of the enemy, and that every soul can be washed clean. In another part of the vision, Jesus showed me a woman kneeling on a stone floor. She looked completely broken. I couldn't see any wounds on her body, but her spirit was crumbling. And that's when Jesus said something I will never forget. Her pain will become the light for another woman. Every tear she has shed will one day be a bridge for others to cross over their despair. I watched with the eyes of my soul as that woman stood up, still wounded, still trembling, but with a flame lit at the very center of her chest. And Jesus said to me, "Hell tried to extinguish this soul, but I decided to ignite her, because the greatest warriors of the kingdom are not the perfect ones. They are the survivors." Then Jesus showed me something that broke me inside. It was a timeline, and along that line there were people who were just one step away from giving up on life. I saw tears falling in the darkness of silent rooms. I saw silent prayers whispered into pillows, and Jesus said, "They think no one sees, but I see. They think no one hears, but I hear. And they think they have no strength left, but I am the strength that is still holding them up." Then he showed me something beautiful. Every time someone thought about giving up, an invisible light was lit in heaven, and that light cried out for help on behalf of that soul. Angels were sent. Circumstances shifted. People crossed paths by chance. But it wasn't chance. It was Jesus, responding in ways that the human mind doesn't always understand. In the last part of this vision, Jesus was silent. He was just looking at a crowd, and that crowd was looking up to the sky, waiting for a sign, waiting for an answer. But it seemed like nothing was happening. So I asked, "Lord, why aren't you speaking to them?" And he replied, "Because sometimes the deepest kind of love is the one that simply remains. They think silence means absence, but in reality, it's presence that trusts. When a father holds the hand of his child who's learning to walk, he doesn't speak all the time, but he is there. That's what I'm doing." And then he looked at me with a tenderness that doesn't exist in this world, and said, "Tell them that even when I don't speak, I remain. If you've made it this far, I want you to know, Jesus didn't show me all of this by accident. He knew you would hear it. He knew that at the exact moment you would come across this message, and he asked me to tell you, you are not weak, you are a survivor, and everything you've been through wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to awaken you. You will still live through things that you can't even imagine right now. And when you look back, you'll understand that I never left your side. In another vision, Jesus took me to a garden of waters. Yes, waters. It was as if the ground was made of calm rivers. But above them, trees grew, an environment that the mind can't comprehend, but the spirit recognizes. There I saw people. They were walking, but they seemed confused. They looked at their own reflections in the waters and didn't recognize who they were. And that's when Jesus said something that made me weep deeply. Most people live as if they've forgotten who they are. They clothe themselves in fears, traumas, and failures. But inside, they are still light. They were created by me, with purpose. But the world made them forget. I asked, "And how will they remember?" And Jesus replied, "They will remember when they stop defining themselves by their pain, when they stop comparing themselves, when they look at themselves through my eyes." The remembrance of the soul doesn't come from pride. It comes from the humility to accept. I am loved, even when I don't deserve it. Then Jesus showed me a narrow road made of stones, and along that road there were fragments of stories, traumas, disappointments, abuse, rejections, abandonments. And he said, every piece of this path is part of the healing that this soul will offer to others. But how, Lord? I asked. How can something so ugly become a mission? And he replied, because what wounded you will become the key that unlocks prisons for others. No one heals with theory. They heal through experience. The pain that knocked you down is the same that will lift you up, and then will lift many through you. And then I understood. There are people who didn't go through all of this for nothing. They were trained in the depths, molded in the fire. And now, they are about to be used by God. In one of the last visions, Jesus said to me, now I'm going to lend you my eyes for a moment. And when he said that, everything changed. I began to see people differently. The young woman on the street who looked lost. She was a worshiper with a heart in ruins. The man who shouted, in anger. He was a soul crying out for an embrace since childhood. The young man who was getting involved in all the wrong things. He was someone trying to numb a pain that no one had noticed. And Jesus said to me, that's why judging is so dangerous. You see behaviors, I see stories, and I came because of them. And then, with tears in my eyes, I saw how he loves. It's not a love that waits for perfection. It's a love that goes down into the darkest places of the soul and says, I still want you, even like this, exactly like this. Then Jesus showed me an army, but it wasn't an ordinary army. There were no shining armors, no swords or shields. They were clothed in scars, with knees bruised from falling and getting back up over and over. But their eyes carried fire. And he said, these are my chosen ones, the ones still standing, even wounded, even tired, even without understanding everything, but still believing. And what will they do, Lord? I asked, and he said, they will heal, they will love, they will transform, not by their own strength, but because I will be with them, and my spirit will speak through them. Then Jesus looked at me and said with a sacred seriousness, now you will tell them what I showed you last, but only say it after they've heard all of this, because only those who listen with a prepared heart will understand. I trembled, felt the weight of eternity in that promise. And now that you've come this far, now that your soul is open, I can tell you. Jesus took me to a place that seemed to exist outside of time. There was silence, but it was a living silence, deep, and within it, there was a house. It wasn't an ordinary house. It was made of light, as if heaven itself had been shaped right there. And Jesus said to me, this house exists within each one of my children, even those who don't believe, even those who have drifted away, even those who think they are lost. I dwell there, but many have forgotten me. And then he showed me people entering that inner house. Some were on their knees, others were crying, others just wanted to lie down and rest. And one by one, Jesus touched them. And when he touched them, all the pain dissolved, not in words, but in presence. They don't need to do much. They just need to allow me to enter. I don't require purity. I require surrender. Inside that house there was an altar, and the altar was broken. It symbolized the faith of each person that had been wounded by life. When I looked at that destroyed altar, I asked, Lord, how will this be rebuilt? And he answered, with fragments. Use the broken pieces, the shattered heart, the shaken faith, the hope almost extinguished. I am the God who turns shards into a temple, ruins, into rebirth. And then I saw the altar being rebuilt, not from the outside, but from the inside out. It was as if every tear that fell became a brick, every act of forgiveness was the cement, every step of faith, even the smallest, became a pillar. And in the end, the altar was alive, breathing, with the light of Christ inside it. The strongest vision came next. Jesus showed me people lying down as if they were dead inside. They were sleeping souls, souls that had lost their spark, their laughter, their hope. But then, he would come close, and with just one word, he'd say, "Rise," and the soul would rise, slowly at first, then standing, then on their knees, and finally, with arms wide open, as if they had just been born again. And Jesus said to me, "There is no life I cannot reignite. There is no story I cannot rewrite. There is no pain I do not turn into healing." That's when Jesus turned to me. But it was as if he was looking through me, at you, at the one listening right now, at the one who feels, deep in their chest, that this message is personal. And he said, "Tell them the time has come. Time to come back. Time to open the door. Time to trust again, because what I have prepared surpasses everything they ever imagined." Tell them I don't want performance. I want presence. I want their heart, just as it is, even if it's wounded, even if it's hesitant, because I heal, I restore, I make all things new. Before the vision ended, Jesus taught me a prayer, not a memorized prayer, but a prayer that is born from the soul. He said that if you say this with sincerity, he will answer. So if you want to, pray with me now. Jesus, I don't have much to give you, but what I do have, I give to you. My pain, my confusion, my guilt, my longing for something I don't even know how to name. I give it all to you. Help me remember who I am. Help me come back home. Restore in me what the world has broken, and walk with me to the very end. I don't fully understand you, but I desire you. Come into me and stay. And when everything was over, Jesus turned once more and said something I will never forget. Tell them that I am still calling, that I am still healing, that I am still waiting. And tell them that I asked you to deliver this message because it was for them, because I knew they would listen. If you felt something different, if you cried, if your chest tightened, if all of this felt too personal to be just a coincidence, then understand, Jesus was calling you. And now, the response is yours. You can ignore it and keep going, or you can close your eyes, take a deep breath, and say, "Yes, Jesus, I heard you. I'm coming back. I trust you. I want you." The choice is yours. But know this, he has already chosen you.